Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. My name is 𝗨𝘁 𝗫, and we got my man Carl in the house, all the way from the moon. Say hello, Carl.
Hello, guys. Thank you so much for having me on your channel.
Yeah, welcome. Today, we are going to talk about the current state of the markets. Of course, Carl and my favorite topic, Bitcoin. And we're going to let you know what you need to be aware of right now as it pertains exactly to what's going on with Bitcoin price, current economic world conditions, world reserve currencies, federal banks, and how you can prepare best for the things to come. All right, Carl. Well, let's. We've had a pretty rough last 4 days or so, 5 days. A bit of a pullback, and what do you think's going on right now? Like, are we falling off a cliff, or was it just a healthy pullback? Let us know.
Yeah, so I think that when you look at the Bitcoin price through the years, you can see that in a big bull market, just as back when Bitcoin went up to $20,000, if you look at the run up to 20,000, we see big corrections on the way up. Nothing goes up vertically forever. You always have pullbacks. And some of these pullbacks back a few years ago in the bull market were between 30 to 40%. What we've seen now is just a little bit above 20%, I think. And that's actually well within the realms of in a bull market correction. I think it's very healthy because when you see people jump in, everyone at the same time, usually the market just tends to come down and punish the people that jumped in at the last time to shake out some weak hands. And it's just how markets work. And ever since the Corona dump, I think we went up like 220% or something like that up to the previous local high. That's a big run up in just a few months. So getting a pullback now, I think, is healthy and reasonable. And I think that the gap is something that many people are talking about. The CME Feeders Gap, it's down at 9.6 approximately. That is something that I am keeping my eyes on. I think that it is something that statistically...
Can you explain the gap?
Yeah, so in the CME Futures chart, because Bitcoin is traded on CME, and of course the CME futures, they are only traded during normal trading hours, so not during the weekend. So if price moves very quickly during the weekend, then you get a big gap. And also you can get gaps if price moves very quickly. You can get gaps. This happens in stocks, it happens everywhere, but usually not in crypto, right? Because crypto is 24/7. But on the CME futures chart, you can see gaps. And now we have a big gap down at 9.6K.
But my question is, like, what happens? Because this gap was created several weeks ago, right?
Yep.
So what happens when the next week passes by and there's not much of a gap? The CME closes at 10,500 on Friday, and Monday morning it wakes up and it's at 10,500. You still refer to this gap from several weeks ago, or how does that work?
Yeah, then you have a gap. Like, if you have a gap that didn't, like, you fill a gap when the price comes down and trades above or trades within the range where the gap is. So we still have the gap open down at 9.6K. And statistically and historically, if you go back into the chart, you can see that all of these gaps, they fill sooner rather than later. It's like a weird thing. It just happens. No one knows exactly why. There are theories out there. Some people have these theories about why gaps get filled. Some people just say that it's like the market needs to come down and trade within this area because there was no price discovery there, because we just jumped over the price. I don't know. I actually have no clue why the gaps need to get filled. I just know that statistically they do. Or like it's just statistically very likely that they will get filled sooner rather than later. And many times I've been able to buy and sell and trade based on these gaps and actually make money from this information. So it seems to be significant to me, at least.
Are you would you consider yourself a Bitcoin maximalist?
I would not really. I would consider myself like my portfolio is 90% Bitcoin, so there you go. But I have Ethereum, I have a few altcoins right now because of the hype we're seeing in DeFi. But I don't see myself holding any altcoins for more than 1-2 years. Bitcoin is for the long term. Bitcoin is the only coin that I'm going to hold forever. These altcoins are merely just a speculation hype, and I guess I'm merely swing trading these altcoins. Whenever a altcoin goes 3x in my portfolio, I sell 30% or a third of it I sell to take out my initial investment, and then I let the rest ride. And if it 10x's, then I will sell half. So, and I'm not saying that I'm gonna keep the rest of it forever. I'm just saying that at least now I made profits off of it, and after that I will just see what happens. But I'm not looking to hold these altcoins forever, because most of these altcoins that I'm holding, I have to admit, I don't really understand exactly what they do. It's just hype. It's just hype. It's a lot of hype right now. DeFi, it's a lot of hype, and I think people are promising more than they can deliver. And I think the same was back in the ICO bubble also. So yeah, I'm taking advantage of the hype price-wise, but I don't see myself holding for the long term.
That makes sense. What about are you more? How's your feeling about like Ethereum, for example?
Yeah, I think Ethereum is interesting. It's something that I see myself holding longer than these other altcoins, and I do hold quite a bit of Ethereum. I think we can see how this DeFi bubble is built on Ethereum. It's like most of these projects, if not all of them, are built on Ethereum. So we clearly see the use case for Ethereum, and use case is very important. Like if I buy a coin, if I'm going to hold it for the long term, I want to know that people are using this. Not only like, oh, in the future, this is going to change the world. I want to know right now, are people using it? I know Bitcoin is perfect. People are using it as a store value. People are using it to pay people. It's the best form of money in the world. It's the best store of value in the world. It's digital scarcity. So I know for sure. And I know the value proposition for Bitcoin. It's amazing. There's just no way it's going anywhere. Ethereum, I'm not equally as convinced, but I really, really do see the importance of Ethereum right now, because you can do things with Ethereum that you simply cannot do with Bitcoin.
And there's so much ecosystem growth on Ethereum. It's crazy.
Yeah. So you have the network effect with Ethereum and all that stuff. So I hold Ethereum.
So there's, one of the things that we've been seeing is that there's so much infrastructure being built around Bitcoin or built for Bitcoin. We see all these banks now able to custody Bitcoin. We see a lot of regulations coming in, classifying what Bitcoin means and how it can be treated in different countries. There's a lot of, talk about, there's lots of institutions who are, suggesting that it be put in people's investment portfolio as a hedge against, the risk. So this kind of stuff didn't ever even think about existing, back in when I was, around like, in 2013, 14, when I was kind of getting involved, I was super stoked if I heard Bitcoin in the news anywhere. If someone mentioned it on the radio or on a news article somewhere, it was crazy. But now almost every single day we hear institutions, banks, governments mentioning Bitcoin on a regular basis. So like what's going on? And it seems we have such a finite supply of it. It seems like it's so close to having this kind of exponential grab. I mean, there's such a small amount, right? There's like half as many Bitcoin as there are millionaires on the planet. So what do you think, when do you expect us to see this kind of parabolic run up?
Yeah, so technically, if you look at the stock to flow ratio model, it seems like we should be seeing this very, very soon, like literally in the next couple of months, maybe we should start seeing this run up towards 20,000. And the stock to flow ratio model predicts $288,000 before the end of next year. And this is based on technical analysis, essentially, or on-chain analysis. And you just look at the stock to flow ratio. And yeah, Plan B makes it very, very simple on Twitter. If you go and check out his tweets, you can just see that the stock to flow ratio model and the price is just perfectly co-integrated. And yeah, if you just extrapolate the previous price action, it looks like we're going to go up to these levels. So that's the technical answer. The fundamental answer is even more compelling, I think, and that's the fact that central banks are printing money more than we've ever seen before. We're seeing something that, literally hasn't happened before. Like, we're seeing endless currency printing. We're seeing central banks completely kind of escaping the previous boundaries of what was possible. And I think that this clearly is a slippery slope towards massive hyperinflation. And I really, really believe that the dollar will collapse very soon, whether it's in 1 week or 3 years or maybe even 10 years. It is going to happen soon because it is literally living on borrowed time. Ever since the 1970s, when the gold standard was abolished, that was the final nail in the coffin. That was kind of the that's when it was sure that the dollar would eventually collapse, because fiat currencies, they always go down to their intrinsic value of zero. It always happens because a fiat currency cannot live forever, because it's not intrinsic value. There's nothing there to back it up. There's no scarcity. You have this central authority that can print it out of nothing. So if you go back in time, you can see through thousands of years, there have been thousands of fiat currencies. All of them went to zero. Only one currency remained, and that was gold and silver, because they are scarce. You cannot print them. And the same goes with Bitcoin. You cannot print Bitcoin. It's decentralized. It is untouchable. So that's why I think that now that we are seeing this current system crumble and eventually collapse, people need an alternative. And of course, gold has been the perfect alternative for thousands of years. Gold has been the best form of money for thousands of years.
You know what I just thought about? Sorry. Like, if you guys haven't seen my channel before, like Carl, myself, Chris, and we, maybe Didi, we've done quite a few panels before. And I mean, many months ago, we did a panel where I brought up the fact that that I thought that Bitcoin was even more scarce than gold, just because it's digitally created and it's not found anywhere on any type of Earth or solar system, for example. And I brought up to you guys, I said, like, I am actually a little bit concerned about the fact that we are really starting to talk about asteroid mining, and I think you guys at the time kind of brushed it off and like, I don't think Chris said maybe it's like 100 years away or something. I was like, I don't know about that. Like, we're getting pretty advanced in space. And then I think there was this interview with the 𝗏𝗏𝘅 twins or something like that, and the 𝗏𝗏𝘅 and Dave or whatever, and they mentioned it as well. And I was like, hey, I knew it wasn't the only one thinking about this, but it's true. If we go up, we got asteroids within very close that are orbiting around like very close to Earth that contain quite a bit amount of precious metals. And if we go up there and start mining that, then it really depletes the value of gold. And now you have something like digital gold.
I think, yes. I mean, you could make the argument, but I don't really like it, because I also don't really see this as an immediate threat, because even if you can, in the next 2-3 decades, mine gold from asteroids, it's still going to cost you so much money. It's going to take so much time and effort to do it. So the value of gold will still remain. Like, the whole reason why gold is valuable is because it costs money to mine. And if it costs money to mine gold on Earth, then you can bet it's going to cost money to mine gold on asteroids, much more. So I think the value of gold will remain. The only reason to believe that gold could collapse in value would be if you can make it extremely cheap to mine asteroids. And it has to be super simple. It has to be very quick, and I don't really see that happening. I mean, it can happen. It probably will happen at some point, because technology is going exponential. So at some point in the future, but I don't know, not in the next 100 years. But that's just my opinion. But back to my point about gold, I think that gold has been the best form of money for thousands of years, but now we're living in a digital world with a digital economy. So when the dollar collapses, we're going to need a digital alternative, because we're using these infrastructures today, like PayPal and bank transfers. Everything is done on the computer, and you cannot send gold over the computer. You could send some kind of
representation.
Yeah, like an IOU for gold. But then we're back to your fractional reserve system again. It's just not reliable at all, right? So Bitcoin is the perfect solution, because you're sending actual value over the internet. So actually, I don't know. I'm so bullish on Bitcoin fundamentally because what we're seeing right now with central banks printing currency out of nothing, it's literally the exact environment that Bitcoin was created for. So I think that we can see insane prices for Bitcoin in the next few years. I think that Bitcoin can go to millions of dollars per single Bitcoin if Bitcoin truly threatens the whole fiat currency system, which I think it is. And eventually, I think that Bitcoin can easily take over 50 to even maybe 100% of all the currency, like the fiat currencies in the world.
Does the current state of the global markets, especially, I think it's, I mean, I'm saying especially U.S. markets, but I think it might hold true for the rest of the markets as well. But the U.S. is the largest one. Does it concern you at all in the immediate future of the value of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency markets? We've seen quite the correlation between the two. And ideally, we're supposed to uncorrelate, right? But I don't think we've reached that point yet. Does the current state of the market and the, concern you at all? Should it concern people watching this? Or do you think that potentially we might have enough time to where when those markets do crash, like the traditional stock markets, that we do see an uncoupling and people flee to Bitcoin as a safe haven?
So it's undeniable that the markets have been heavily correlated for the past few months and even years. And I think that this is probably going to continue for some time. We did see the Corona dump being very correlated. Actually everything collapsed during the Corona dump. So everything was correlated. You can look at any asset, everything went down. And I think that it's just like everyone who's invested in stocks, or some of these people, they actually hold some Bitcoin, and people that hold Bitcoin, they hold some stocks, and people that hold gold, they hold a little bit of stocks and Bitcoin. Like everyone holds a little bit of everything because people are diversified. That is like one of the first rules in investing. So let's say your stocks collapse by 50%. And if you're over leveraged somewhere, you might have to sell your profitable investments on the other side. Let's say you're profitable on Bitcoin or gold. Then to cover your losses on stocks, you have to sell gold and Bitcoin, and vice versa. If Bitcoin starts to go down, you have to sell your stocks to cover your losses in Bitcoin. So that's why we see the correlation, I think. And that's the obvious reason why it's correlated. People are just invested. And I think that in the end, we will see Bitcoin escape this correlation because Bitcoin is different. And Bitcoin is a new type of asset that we haven't seen before. It is much more close to gold rather than anything else we've seen before, but it's something even different than gold. It's actually digital, which is amazing. We now have digital scarcity. We now have a digital asset that can be transferred. And I really think that when people lose confidence in the dollar, which will inevitably happen because the dollar will collapse, and at one point in time, people will realize that the dollar is not to be trusted. And many people are already realizing it. Many countries are realizing it. But soon the average Joe in the average life is going to realize it also when a Big Mac starts to cost them $200, when going to the movies costs them $500. They're going to realize that something is up, something is wrong, and I need to get out of this. And that's when they're going to start buying whatever they can with their dollars. They're going to sell dollars into maybe it's stocks, maybe it's real estate, maybe these assets could be in a big asset bubble. But sooner or later, people will realize that they need to buy something that is scarce and cannot be tampered with, and that has no third-party risk. We will see banks collapse. We will see there can be chaos when a monetary system collapses, and that's when you want to be sure that your assets are in your own hand and that no one can tamper with it. And gold and Bitcoin are both going to be fantastic options at that point. And if you want to stay as liquid as possible, and if with this new culture of digital nomads moving around the world, Bitcoin is the perfect way for you to take your wealth with you wherever you go, whenever, and send to whoever you want. I mean, sending a gold bar over the border, that costs a lot of money. The percentage of the whole transaction is huge. But sending Bitcoin, you can send billions of dollars for $1 or $2 in fees. It's insane. It's amazing. And imagine when countries, imagine when companies and central banks and these big institutions start using Bitcoin as their final settlement instead of gold and instead of cash settlements, because they realize that it's the cheapest way to do it. It's the most secure way to do it. It's literally just like the best way to transfer value over the internet. And I think that it is the best technology out there. And I think that, yeah, people will just wake up to the value of Bitcoin, and the best technology will eventually win. And yeah, just imagine when all these billions and even trillions of dollars worth of value starts going through the Bitcoin network. Because remember, if someone has to send $1 billion through Bitcoin, then they first have to buy Bitcoin for $1 billion to be able to send it. So I think the liquidity in Bitcoin is going to dramatically increase as more and more people lose confidence in this system and lose confidence in the dollar.
Cool, man. All right, Carl, let's wrap it up, man. Thank you so much for coming by. Appreciate it. I hope you have a good travel during these COVID times. You're headed over to Dubai, I guess, right?
Yep, Dubai, 10 days, and then I'm going over to Sweden for a few weeks, and then hopefully I'm coming back here to Copenhagen again.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good, man. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you when you come back.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on your amazing channel.
Bye-bye.